All right, welcome to Chapter 7. We are doing 7-1, multiplying fractions. Our next lesson will be dividing fractions. So we have no vocabulary this lesson. Our goal is we'll be able to multiply 2 or more fractions. And I think all I did was on here was 2, but technically you would be able to do more if you wanted to. So the first thing we're going to do is build background. And we're going to use some arrays. So remember, arrays means using like dots or a grid to help this. For 2 times 6, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 2 rows of 6. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then another row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 12 dots total, and that's why 2 times 6 is 12. Another way we could have done this is by breaking it up into a rectangle and making 2 rows like this and 6 total down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, and then we count the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay? So what we're going to do here for 1/2 times 2/3 is I'm going to create a square. And I'm going to be using highlighters. So if you are at school, make sure you grab a highlighter. If you're at home, if you have a different color pen, that would be great to use. Okay, I'm going to use pink and purple. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is 1/2. I'm going to do it this way, right here. So I'm going to make 1/2. So 1/2 means I'm going to cut it in 2. And I want to shade in 1 part out of 2 parts. So I'm going to shade in this top part. I could have done the bottom part, it doesn't matter. But again, you should be shading this in with like a color pen or just slightly shade it with your pencil, but the next part we want to do with a different color. Okay, next one is 2/3. So now I'm going to take the same box and I'm going to have 2/3 up here. Okay, so what that means is I need to break it up into 3. So I'm going to go vertical. So I'm going to break it up into 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm going to highlight 2 of those thirds. So 1, 2. Okay, and my final answer is where they were overlapped. Where was there both pink and purple? So here there's pink and purple, and here there's both pink and purple. This was just pink, just purple, so we don't count those. I want to know how many places was there just those 2 colors. There's 2 spots there. So it's going to be 2 out of how many spots total were there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 over 6, which is the same thing as, if I simplify, divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my final answer is 1/3. So when I do 1/2 times 2/3, I get 1/3. Okay, so number 3, again, I'm going to draw my box. It could be a rectangle, some sort of shape. That's my hole. Now 3/4. I'm going to put it over here. You could do it on top, but then you do vertical lines. I'm going to put it over here and do horizontal. So I'm going to have 3/4, which means I need to break it up into 4 rows. So 1, 2, 3. So that's 4 rows. I'm going to shade in 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So now I have 3 rows shaded in. Now I'm going to have 2/5 up here. I need to break it into 5 parts. I'm going to do 5, make 5 columns, up and down parts. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need 2 of those 5ths shaded in. So I'm going to just do 2 rows, or 2 columns. So 1, 2. Now I want to think, where did they have both the colors? Where do they overlap? So I have overlap, 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 overlap. So just those ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's going to be 6 of them out of how many total squares were there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, and the last thing I want to do is divide, simplify. They're both even, so I can divide them both by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. Okay, so I want to think, what do I notice, and specifically about these two? So if I write out these problems, I have 1/2 times 2/3 equals, and I know in the end it equals 1/3, but I'm going to write that 2/6. And I know that 3/4 times 2/5 equals 6/20. So how can I get to these answers without having to create those boxes, those arrays? Well, if I look, I know 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. And 4 times 5 is 20. So to multiply fractions, we are going to multiply numerators together. That's the top numbers. And multiply denominators. That's the bottom number. Because in order to get that, those were how many there were together, and that's a 1/2 array right up on top here. 1/2 was the amount, and then out of 2/3. 2 times 3 makes 6 total. Here, to get the amount that they had the same, I would do 3 times 2. So I had 3 rows with 2 filled in. There's 6. Out of how many total? 4/5. That would be 20 total. So 6 out of 20. Okay, so here we go. For our first problem here, we have 3/4 times 1/9. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply the numerators. So I'm going to think 3 times 1. If I don't know that, I can use my calculator. 3 times 1 is 3. Over, now I'm going to do my denominators. 4 times 9. Okay, if I don't know that, it's okay to use my calculator. And do 4 times 9. And I get 36. So 3 over 36. Now I do want to simplify it or write it as a mixed number. I don't need to do the mixed number because it's not, the top number is smaller than the bottom, but I need to see if I can simplify it. The only thing I know I can divide 3 by is 3. So I'm going to see, can I do 36 divided by 3? So 36 divided by 3. I can, I get 12. So I'm going to divide top and bottom by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 36 divided by 3 would be 12, because I just did that in my calculator. So 1/12 is my answer. Okay, number 2, we're going to multiply the numerator. So in this case, with this negative, it goes to the top. So I think of this as a -3. So I'm going to do -3 times 5. Okay, I know 3 times 5 is 15. And a negative times a positive is a negative. So -15. Now when I multiply denominators, I already used that negative, so I can't think of it anymore. I already used it. So I have 7 times 11. So 7 times 11 would be 77. Okay, and the only thing I know that goes in 15 would be 3 and 5 and 15, so I just double check. Whoops. I'm going to go to current. That way it brings it up here. So I'm going to take 77 divided by 5. Nope, I get a decimal. 77 divided by 3. I get a decimal. And then 77, can I divide it by 15? Nope, I get a decimal. So that is it. I can't simplify it. And I don't need to write it as a mixed number because the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So that is it. All right, backside. 2 more problems left. Oh, we do have one with 3. Okay, so we're going to multiply the numerators. So we're going to multiply all these numerators together. So I'm going to do 6 times -11 times 2. And it's okay to use your calculator to do all of that. So 6 times, when you use negative, remember we want to use this one on my calculator. So -11 times 2. We get -132. Oh, hopefully you saw that. My iPad just kind of glitched. Okay, Now we're going to multiply the denominators. So my denominators would be 13. I already used that negative, so I'm just going to use 4 and 3. Again, it's okay to use your calculator to do that. So 13 times 4 times 3. And I get 156. So my numerator is smaller than my denominator. 132 is smaller than 156, so I don't need to do the mixed number. But I do know that these are both even, so I can simplify them. So a number that goes into all evens would be 2. So I'm going to divide by 2. Big thing I want to think about, though, is it's going to stay negative. So 132 divided by 2 is 66. And 156 divided by 2, I'm using a calculator, you just can't see it, is 78. So I know, again, these are both even because it ends in a 6 and an 8. So when they're even, I can divide by 2. So negative 66 divided by 2, negative 66, again, I'm using that negative sign, divided by 2, it's going to be negative 33. 78 divided by 2 is going to be 39. So now they're not even anymore. But what I do know is I can divide these both by 3. So I'm still not even done yet, quite yet. So 33 divided by 3, so negative 33 divided by 3. You get negative 11. And 39 divided by 3 would give me 13. And that is it. Okay, last problem. I have negative 3 1/4 times negative 5/8. So the first thing I need to do is convert it into an improper fraction. This is the first problem where we've had, excuse me, I was about to cough there. There we go. Where we have a mixed number here. So we need to make it into an improper. So to do that, we do the whole number times the denominator plus the numerator. So we're going to do 3 times 4, which is 12. Add 1, which is 13. Okay, this was negative, so it's going to stay negative. So negative 13 over my denominator, which is 4, times negative 5 over 8. So first thing I'm going to do is multiply my numerator. So negative 13 times negative 5. Okay, and I'm going to think a negative times a negative is a positive. So I should get a positive number, but I'm going to type in those negatives just to make sure. So times negative 5, and I get positive 65. So in my numerator, I have positive 65. My denominator, I have 4 times 8. And I multiply my denominators. Okay, so 4 times 8 would give me 32. So I'm going to put it over 32. So now I notice that my top number is bigger than my bottom number. So I notice that that top number is bigger than the bottom number. So I need to make it as a mixed number. So to do that, I divide 65 divided by 32. Oh, you can't see that. 65 divided by 32. And I use my division. So 65 divided by 32. If I don't know how many times 32 goes into 65, I can use my calculator. So I'm going to just in my calculator do 65 divided by 32. And my whole number would be 2 because that's in front of the decimal, so that's where my whole numbers go. So it goes in there 2 whole times. So now I'm going to subtract what is 2 whole times of 32. Again, if I don't know, I can use my calculator. 32 times 2. That gives me 64. So I'm going to subtract 64, and I'm left over with 1. So how many whole times did it fit in? It fit in 2 whole times. How much was left over? 1. Out of my denominator, 32. Now I just want to double check. This was positive, so this is also positive. Okay. When multiplying 2 or more fractions, we first multiply, so every time we multiply the numerators. When we have to remember our integer multiplication. So knowing like a negative times a negative is a positive, or positive times a positive is a positive. Integer multiplication rules. Then we multiply the denominators. At the end, we need to simplify or write as a mixed number, which we had to write as a mixed number here, and then other ones we had to simplify. So that is it.